All right, today we're going to be talking about exes who regret breaking up with you. Specifically, we've found that there are typically 5 stages that exes who end up regretting breaking up with you will actually go through when they regret breaking up with you. Now, I'm of the opinion that it's really important to understand the journey to regret. I mean, oftentimes you'll go to Google or go to YouTube and you'll type in like, hey, how do I make my ex regret me? Or hey, what is it like when an ex regrets me? And you'll see these videos or articles that talk about the major signs that an ex is regretting the breakup. I actually think it's a lot more interesting for you to understand what causes the regret, the journey that an ex must go through in order for them to feel that regret, because that's what's never touched on. So let's begin. Stage number 1, the separation elation stage. Now, as you know, I've done a lot of different research and polls with our community asking them what attachment style that their ex is typically going to fall under. And pretty much resoundingly, most of our clients have agreed and they believe that their ex has an avoidant attachment style to the tune of like 70% or something. So with that operating assumption, we have almost a roadmap to help us understand this separation elation stage. So take a look at the graphic I have up on the screen right now. This is known as the relationship death wheel, but we're going to be specifically interested in stages 5 and 6, the moment they decide to leave the relationship, and stage number 6, the I'm so happy that they left. That being so happy is part of that separation elation that we're talking about here. Now, one of my favorite resources to reference is a website called freetoattach.com. And in freetoattach.com, when it comes to the separation elation, they have this to say. After a relationship ends, people with an avoidant attachment style tend not to show much anxiety or distress, often feeling an initial sense of relief at the relinquishing of obligations and the sense that they are regaining their self-identity and not tending to initially miss their partner. This is separation elation, as the pressure to connect is gone. And as ridiculous as this sounds, it really harkens back to this really famous meme. I mean, we've all seen this meme, you know, how men handle a relationship and how women handle a relationship, and how the first day the men are like, yeah, this is awesome. And then maybe a week later, they start to feel kind of sad. And then months later, they're super depressed, while the women, on the other hand, kind of take the opposite trajectory. They're really happy by the end of the breakup months later because they have healed and done the necessary work. Well, believe it or not, the separation elation kind of bears that out. Stage number 2, the repressive depressive episode. What's interesting is when I look at signs or stages of regret that you often see around YouTube, you don't really see a lot of people talking about the repressive depressive episode. So what the heck is it? Well, once again, pulling from freetoattach.com, they can have a depressive episode from 2 to 4 months after a breakup, manifested in feeling numb, disconnected, and meaningless, which they may try to repress. Everybody needs a deeper connection, but often avoidants don't recognize they need partners until that partner actually loses interest and leaves through separation, divorce, also death, illness, or something else. Then when they finally realize nobody is in the house, that's when the crisis hits. Now, the key word in that explanation is repress. Now, funnily enough, we have this stage covered in our death wheel as well. Take a look at stage number 8. Why can't I ever find the right person? This is that depressive episode fully settling in. But here's the funny thing about repressing depressive episodes. It's a lot like a volcano. The more you repress, the more it builds and builds and builds and builds until finally it explodes. And it will explode in stage 3. Stage number 3, the clean slate. So, an ex has broken up with you. Now, initially they feel bolstered by their decision. They go through this separation elation period, but as time ticks on, they start to feel a little depressed. They start to deal with the grief, and as a result of that depression, they start to repress the depression. And as a result of that, they often overcorrect. So rather than dealing with their grief in a healthy manner, they try to find a different way to repress it. They try to wipe the slate clean, so to speak, by finding a new person. A rebound. Pulling from freetoattach.com, it can be easier for avoidants to interchange relationships as they tend to receive more caregiving than they provide. And that's the difficult part with dealing with an avoidant. They're looking at relationships as interchangeable, as if one relationship or as if a relationship can be a one-size-fits-all. But we know that there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all relationship. And no matter how many times they are taught this lesson over and over again, they keep making the mistake over and over again. They keep trying to interchange different people until finally stage 4 sets in. Stage 4, the nostalgic reverie. Now this is the stage where you actually start to see regret happen. So they're with this rebound and things just feel hollow to them. Also, another really interesting thing happens when we find exes are at this stage of the regret cycle. You have often moved on. And that's an important thing because we know that avoidants are free to long for an ex once that person is unavailable out of a relationship. In other words, once they feel safe enough to long from you from afar, to give into that nostalgic reverie, well, that's when they start to regret their decision. They start to be drawn back to you. But two things need to have happened. They have to have moved on, and you have to have moved on. And those two things play a huge role into creating regret, which is really what leads to stage 5. Stage 5, reconnection. So as you can see, the journey to regret is very long and complicated. But at its core, regret is basically to feel sad, repentant, or disappointed over something that has happened or been done, especially a lost or missed opportunity. It's all right there in the definition. Well, the loss we kind of have covered. That starts to bear out on stage 2, where they start to feel depressed because they've lost you or that relationship is being grieved. So that part's covered. It's that missed opportunity aspect that's the more difficult thing to get them to feel. They usually don't start to feel that until you have moved on from them. This is what our research with success stories has shown us. The one common theme, the one common trend is that most of our success stories usually don't have major successes until they have let go of their ex, or they have admitted, you know what, I'm okay moving on, I don't know if I want this ex back anymore, and then boom, voila, the ex comes back into the picture. I've talked about this countless times on different YouTube videos and articles and podcast episodes, and yet people still don't get it. That's what most people get wrong. They're scared to let go. And so here we are at stage number 5, reconnection. As your ex goes through the long and winding road of feeling regret, they start to realize they may have made a mistake by letting you go or breaking up with you. They try to get back together with you. They try to reclaim what was once lost, forever falling victim to nostalgic reverie.